Welcome back to Movie Guys Improvise, the MGI podcast. You're listening to the voices of
Share realms.
Jurassic, Mark.
and Osheem, the one and only, my new stage name. Last month's episode was a movie I was highly anticipating for a very, very, very long time, Spider-Man No Way Home. Our guest co-host Parvision and myself gave it high reviews. Chill with Realms gave it a perfect review. So obviously, we all recommend it. A lot of people have gone and seen it because it's broken so many records for the pandemic. But that was that episode. Today, we're kicking it back with some more anime. Realms, why don't you take it away?
Today we're going to be reviewing the new or the latest version of the remake of the Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back.
So, when you had first told us that that was going to be your pick, I don't really fuck with Pokemon all that much, so I thought this was gonna be like a sequel or something. I saw Pokemon the first movie back when I was a kid. So when this movie was called Mewtwo Strikes Back, I thought this was gonna be a sequel to that, but it's not really, right? Why don't you like tell us a little bit about what this movie is on Netflix? That's where I saw it.
It's basically the exact same movie, but just they revamped the visuals, and there's certain portions of the movie where they did add a little bit more detail than the first movie that came out.
Yeah. So the first thing I was gonna ask you was like, is this supposed to be a reboot? Like I read about it a little bit right before we started recording. Apparently it's a remake. I thought it was a reboot of sorts, but it is based on like the very Pokemon the first movie.
I I actually went back and watched the first one again, and it's pretty much the exact same thing. Pretty much.
Okay.
Like there was some parts that were slightly different, I think, and then for the most part, there was a lot of sequences that were 100% exactly the same. Just it looked a lot more visually cleaner.
Okay, so then I guess the next natural question, can we all agree then that the biggest difference between the first movie and Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution is the animation? Like the older one was just a traditional cartoon, like anime cartoon, and this one was more CGI. So what did you prefer? Did you prefer this animation style or the original?
I'm torn. Like I really loved the new visuals, and there was maybe a handful of things where I was like, they could have did that a little bit better. And then like I really have a strong attachment to the original though. And plus the one thing that sort of bothered me, but I don't think it would maybe bother anybody who hadn't seen the original first, but some of the voice actors were different.
Yeah, that bothered me a lot too. Like I stopped watching Pokemon a long time ago, but I could tell that Ash, Misty, and Brock, their voice actors were not the same. And that bothered me, to be honest. Jam, do you consider yourself a Pokemon fan?
I was when I was in elementary school. I haven't really kept up with it. I know Pokemon had a bit of a renaissance after the Pokemon Go game came out, and I want to say 2015. But I never really jumped back on board. I liked it for about 2 years, maybe when I was younger, and then I just sort of moved on. But I did see Pokemon the first movie in theaters.
Oh, in theaters. Wow. I think I watched it
Yeah.
on home video, but I didn't go to see it in the big hall.
I dragged my dad to the movie theater and made him sit there with me and watch this thing.
Oh man. Well, yeah, as far as the animation goes, Realms, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. When I first started seeing the animation, I'm thinking like this is nice. This looks pretty nice. The environments look nice. The Pokemon look nice, but the characters, like the human characters, I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm digging this style. So I was kind of torn too.
Yeah.
I know one thing that irks me, like right off the jump, when Ash, Misty, and Brock come out, you can tell like they changed up Misty a little bit. Like she's not as sassy as she is in the original, and it's like that's Misty, like she's sassy.
Yeah, Misty's supposed to be sassy, so she's not her whole self here. And I don't remember if Brock was always a simp, because he certainly seemed like a simp in this movie. He was. Okay, he was.
Yes, he was. although that first scene, he had said something to Misty about the beef stew, or the stew that he was making, and then it kind of seemed like they was trying to make him smooth, and then she was just like, she went along with it. But then later in the movie, then he goes back to more simpish type ways.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember distinctly in the original, he calls his stew like the lazy boy no chew stew. I just really remember that that's what he calls it for Ash, and Ash was like really hungry or something. The beginning of the movie was the creation of Mewtwo, right? And he's telepathically having this whole existential crisis and whatnot. I don't remember if he was having that in the original. However, he was. Okay.
Yeah.
So this movie is for kids, right? And it gets kind of dark sometimes, tone-wise. What I wondered when I saw Pokemon the first movie, kind of the same thing that I wondered here, although I'm not really wondering, I'm feeling like this is a matter of fact. He killed everybody on that island, right? He blew it up, meaning he murdered them kind of on purpose, right? That was not an accident. He killed them.
He definitely did. He blew that whole place up. And then I think the only thing that was left remaining was just like some footage that one of the guys had recorded.
And so the new island that he hosts the Pokemon tournament on, did he build that on the ruins of the island he destroyed, or was that a separate location?
No, that was the same location.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Wow. Okay.
They show like a little bit later in the movie, he's using the technology that they had to create his clone.
Okay. So, but Mewtwo himself, he's not a clone of another Mewtwo, right? I'm guessing he's a clone of Mew. Is that right? Or am I?
Well, like a modified clone of Mew. Like they said that they changed him to try and make him an improvement on Mew. But yeah, genetically, I think he was based on Mew.
Okay. So I guess he is different in Mew in some ways, in that like he can speak telepathically, right? In a way that humans can understand, just like Meowth. Meowth is the only other Pokemon who can speak to humans. But besides that, they kind of made it seem like they were even. They were on an even scale in terms of power, right? Like Mew was a very powerful Pokemon. Mewtwo was a very powerful Pokemon, and they were duking it out in the third act. But there was no clear winner between the two of them, it seemed like.
Yeah, that was, I think, another like a sort of like a plot hole in the story, because they claim that the clones are supposed to be stronger, but even the clones that he made afterwards, they were pretty much even matched in the end of the movie. They won the first initial battles, but then like towards the end of the movie, everybody's like coming to a draw.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Honestly, the whole third act was kind of confusing to me, because like Mewtwo says he does not wish to bring any harm to the humans. So he's asking them to leave us, good luck making it through this storm, but he doesn't wish any harm. And he says that Pokemon are like poorly he says that the Ash's Charizard is poorly trained, but he's kind of disgusted by how weak these Pokemon are to begin with. So what was he trying to do? Like he was trying to clone all the Pokemon and then like take over the world or something. His motivation was a little bit confusing to me. I wasn't sure what he was trying to do. Like he was trying to clone Pokemon, and then what? What does he do after that with other clone Pokemon?
Honestly, I'm not even 100% sure if he really knew what he wanted to do, because I think it was just a situation of hurt people hurt people. Like it was people that pissed him off in the beginning, so now he just wanted to take it out on mankind.
That I could understand, but he literally says he does not wish to bring any harm to humans. So that's where his motivation was starting to lose me. I could understand like him being created against his own will by the the lust for power of mankind. I'm guessing that guy after Mewtwo blew up the facility, and that guy, I guess, who's the captain of Team Rocket. I don't know who that was. Who was he?
Giovanni.
Right. Giovanni shows up and says that they should work together because otherwise Mewtwo is gonna end up destroying the whole world unless they work together. So they work together for a little while, and then Mewtwo decides that working with this human is only holding back his power, so he breaks free of the power and then does his own thing. Right. So from that point, I can understand that he just hates the fact that he was created against his will and is deciding to take over the world. But then when he says that he doesn't want to harm people, I'm like, okay, so what exactly is it that he wants? And on top of that, the whole point of Pokemon trainers is for Pokemon to fight, right? So the Pokemon are fighting, but Ash is getting bothered by it. He's seeing that the Pokemon are fighting and he wants to stop the fighting. But I thought the whole point of Pokemon tournaments was to fight. What issue did Ash have with the Pokemon fighting?
With Mewtwo, I think his thing was he had more of like a desire to be a ruler over the humans, not so much to kill them, but it seemed as though he was willing to do it at any means necessary. And as far as like Ash being upset about the fighting, like yes, Pokemon are meant for battling, but they're battling for fun, battling for sport. They're not typically battling to the death, and that's what was going on in the end. They were trying to kill each other.
I see. That makes sense, actually. But they were nowhere close. Like I said, it seemed like they were very evenly matched, even though Mewtwo was supposed to be the more powerful one, the more improved version.
One part that is another plot hole for me. All right, Pikachu and Pikachu are fighting each other, right? But Ash's Pikachu is not fighting. Ash's Pikachu, he's taken all the beating, and yet somehow they came to a draw. Like that didn't make sense.
I mean, that's how Muhammad Ali used to fight. He would let the other guy just wail on him for 45 minutes, and then the other guy would just get tired and collapse, and Ali would win. Like, that's not like all there was to it, but basically his strategy was, yeah, tire yourself up beating the shit out of me, then I'll deliver a knockout punch and go home.
Like Pikachu didn't swing at all, so it's like
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you're the clone and you're supposed to be the stronger version, like how are you getting beat by not even getting hit? Like
yeah, I think as basically, if you'll pardon the expression, a clone of the original Pokemon movie, I think this one has all of the same problems because I think Pokemon, the first movie, I liked it when I was 10 and I rewatched it a couple of years ago. And I remember thinking, this doesn't really hold up all that well. I liked the cartoon that came before it a little bit better. Do you guys remember the cartoon they showed in theaters? Like there was this cartoon where I think Ash, Brock, and Misty drop all their Pokemon off at basically like Pokemon day camp for vacation or something. And then all the Pokemon have an adventure together. And I had a lot of fun with that. I think with the actual movie, the first half is better than the second half, in my opinion. I think it sets things up very well. It's compelling. Oh, who's this Mewtwo? What's he going to do? Oh, there's this mysterious island. Somebody's been kidnapped, and we're going to see if our trainers can make it out there. And then once everybody actually arrives, for me, the story just kind of loses its interest for me. Yeah, it plateaus at like the midpoint, and then it just gets less interesting in the second half. That might not be everybody's opinion, but that's just kind of the way I see this story.
I tend to agree, JM. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rums.
I was just saying that that's a fair call.
Not to be a downer. Like again, there are some fun parts in this movie. Like I love that first battle when Ash is hungry, but he suddenly has the energy to like get into a Pokemon battle with this stranger who's got this weird elephant thing.
There was one difference in there that I didn't like that they made. In the new version, that entire battle, they just did like music over it. The only sound effect you hear is Pikachu's electricity blast at the end. But in the original, you can hear the special effects from the attacks. You can hear little bits and pieces of things that Ash says to his Pokemon. That part I didn't like that they took out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't seen the first movie in a long time, but there are certain parts that I remember that there was kind of like a 1-to-1 match. Like I remember a scene, two scenes. One where Mew saves Ash's life, which makes me feel like maybe Mew is kind of a benevolent Pokemon because he saved Ash's life, but he only did that once. Ash's life was in danger again after that because Mewtwo attacks him, but Mew didn't bother to try to save him after that. Oh, it was only the one time. So there was that scene. And the other scene that I remember being a 1-to-1 match was Mewtwo using telekinesis to push Ash, and Ash kind of like bumps into Brock, and they both fall. That also, I think they took directly from the original, like a scene similar to that. And as far as the plot goes, I tend to agree with you, JM. I think the first act and like first half of the second act was set up quite interestingly. When Mewtwo was creating that hurricane, at first I'm like, why is he doing this? He's starting a tournament and then just randomly making the weather bad. Like, what's the point of this? But then I'm like, oh, I get why he's doing it. He's doing it as a test. And they say it later on in the movie, like whoever can make it through this storm, those are the ones worthy and qualified for being a part of this tournament that he's putting together.
I'm actually not even sure they said that in the first movie. So that's another add-on that they had in there.
Did Mewtwo have a hurricane, like an artificial hurricane in the first one? Okay, that part I didn't remember.
Yeah, like they had the hurricane and then I don't think they said that, and they also in the original movie they didn't show any of the trainers, jumping into the water and making their way there. It's just they show Ash, Misty, and Brock. They see Team Rocket. In the original, Team Rocket they were saying they were Vikings, and they had like a different boat, and they don't find out about the other trainers, getting there until they actually get there.
Not even halfway through the movie, I wasn't sure if this was like a reboot of the entire like Pokemon characters franchise. So when Team Rocket showed up on that little boat and was inviting Ash and his friends on it, I'm like, has he not met Team Rocket before? Because it's very obvious that this is Jesse and James. But then he does recognize them when their disguises wash away. I'm like, dude, it was very obvious that it's them. I was thinking you didn't meet them yet, but you did meet them. So I don't know. That was a little sad. But this is also a kids movie, right? I shouldn't be too harsh and like think too deep about it because it's a movie for kids, right? It's Pokemon.
They're the masters of disguise.
Later in the movie, Ash tells them something like, "I don't have time for your catchphrase today," or whatnot. So,
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
That was funny.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Ash was able to like save Pikachu from, well, I mean, Pikachu was technically not in any harm either, or was it that the original Pokemon would be stuck inside the cloning machine? Like Ash freed them, I guess, right? Like was that what it was going to be? Like only the clones would survive, and because Ash went into the machine and kind of broke it, he set the original Pokemon free. If that's not it and the original Pokemon would be out anyway, then that means Pikachu was never really in any danger, unless Ash was desperately trying to stop Pikachu from getting cloned, but he got cloned anyway, even though he went into the cloning machine. I don't know.
I don't think they were in any harm, but I think him doing that is what released them from the machine.
Okay. And I think that's probably the case because Mewtwo was surprised to see all of the original Pokemon like still like surviving and stuff. So
Ooh, another thing. For some reason, in the new version, when the clones were coming out, he seemed surprised that the clones were coming out, actually, because they blew up a hole in the ground, and then Mewtwo said, "What was that?" But it's like, aren't you summoning them? You should know they're coming. That didn't happen in the original.
oh, I see. Okay. Wow. Yeah. I'm not sure how much I really like this movie. I didn't hate it, okay? And I even prefaced this by saying I'm not much of a Pokemon guy. You guys know I'm more of a Digimon kind of guy. So, but would I recommend this? If you're a Pokemon fan, then of course you should watch this movie. Like, why not? It wouldn't hurt to spend a couple of hours watching this movie if you love Pokemon. Outside of that, as a kids movie, there are better kids movies for entertainment out there that both kids and adults can enjoy. For me, sorry to say, Realms, this was not it. I'm saying that because this was your choice. This was not. Was this a blind watch for you? Did you watch this before you nominated it, or did you nominate it and then watch it?
Nominated and then watch. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
And then I'll give them a little dash of credit because they did fix a mistake that was made, or two mistakes that was made in the original. When Team Rocket is in, Mewtwo's, laboratory, I guess Mewtwo's laboratory because it says now. They're showing the Pokemon on the screen and they're like, "Who's that Pokemon?" And in the original, they say it's Alakazam, but it was Scyther on the screen. And it's like, you watch the rest of the movie, you never see Alakazam in the movie. So it's like, where'd they get that from? And then one of the trainers, when Ash and everybody show up, he has his Pidgeot there. And for some reason in the first movie they called it Pidgeotto. But there's a clear difference between the two in their hair. Pidgeotto has more of a reddish hair on top, like full red. And then Pidgeot has like a split of red on each side and then blonde in the middle.
Is it possible that those mistakes in the original was like a dub versus sub thing, or was the dub and sub they got them both wrong, and the dub was just directly translating the mistakes of the sub?
That I'm not sure. I never saw it in the sub.
Okay, yeah, me neither.
Sorry, dude. I was just gonna say I have heard that the original version is supposed to be a little bit different. There's apparently like a cut of Pokemon the first movie that wasn't released in American theaters that I think adds a couple of scenes. But I haven't seen it either. I only know the sub version by reputation.
I wonder if maybe like the parts that I noticed were added onto the newer version. I wonder if those were just pieces that were missing from the original version that are in the uncut. I wonder.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. Well,
Farhad, just to build off of what you were saying, buddy, I think I would recommend this to people who really like Pokemon. I think a lot of it's gonna depend on how nostalgic you are for that first movie, because what you're basically getting here is a slightly different version of the same product with a new animation style. So it's just different enough to be a different viewing experience, but it's hitting all the same beats. I think some of the same scenes probably look identical. Like if you played these two movies next to each other on like two television screens, I wonder how well the animation would line up between them in certain parts. So yeah, I definitely recommend it for somebody who wants a nostalgia rush. Personally, I didn't dislike it. I wasn't thrilled with it either. I think my favorite Pokemon movie to date is Detective Pikachu.
Okay, I still got to see that.
That's good. That one's good.
Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool.
Yeah.
I think you describe it pretty well, JM. And on top of that, what's also kind of different is the Pokemon theme in the beginning. I think it's like a remix, right? It's not the original Pokemon theme. That's also slightly different. But yeah,
that theme was iconic. Like,
yeah,
to everybody our age, when we were like 10 and 11, we all knew that song, like start to finish. We could sing it backwards. Like, if you didn't know the Pokemon song in fourth grade, you were a communist. It's basically how like everybody saw it.
They had a decent run of beginning theme songs. Like there was a good handful that I had memorized, but after a while, it just kind of fell off for me.
I mean, we get older, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
We do. Yeah, it's life. You get older. So I think I've pretty much wrapped my thoughts on it, actually, gentlemen. Like, do you gentlemen have any closing statements? Because I think I'm just about ready to go into ratings.
I think I'm good. There's nothing that's jumping out right now. Not to think of that I wanted to say.
Okay. All right. I do have a question for you, Rams. I mean, it's similar to what JM and I were saying. In fact, yeah, why don't you go first? This was your pick, so you go ahead with your rating.
Let's see. I want to give it a 7, but as far as like visual wise, I'd say like if I was only rating the visuals, I would give it a higher score.
A higher score. Okay.
Yeah.
And would you recommend this? Like, who would you recommend this movie to? Obviously, I'm guessing you would recommend this to Pokemon fans, but beyond that, like, would you recommend this as a viewing experience otherwise?
Not to anybody who's not a Pokemon fan, honestly,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
anybody who's seen the first movie is worth checking out
Yeah.
to compare and contrast.
Yeah. I have seen the first movie, and I'm glad that I was able to, like, that I knew about this thanks to you, and got to watch it. JM.
Yeah, I'd give this one a 6 personally. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. Like we've said, if you've seen Pokemon the first movie, you've basically seen this one, but the visuals are interesting. I do agree with what Realm said earlier in that the human characters look kind of bad a lot of the time. I think that they look they look plasticky a little bit. But that being said, the water looks photorealistic, like in the storm. You could have, if you had told me that some of that rain was out of a nature documentary, I would have believed it. So the visuals are interesting, but that just wasn't really enough to spark my passion. But if you're a hardcore Pokemon guy, this might do it for you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with that assessment about the animation too. I think the environments look good, the Pokemon look good. It's just the people that were kind of off to me. The humans.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a tad. So I was gonna give this a 5.5 out of 10, but I feel kind of bad giving it something that low.
I don't feel that. Do not feel that. Because this was like a throwaway movie option for me. So you're not gonna hurt my feelings.
Okay, all right.
I honestly wanted to say for my movie pick, the new Sonic movie, but it came out this month.
Yeah.
Oh, the one with tails in it, right?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. That movie is doing pretty well too, actually. It did better than Morbius, which was the next movie I actually wanted to see, just to see the connections to Spider-Man, but that's not even necessary anymore. It's neither here nor there. But okay, so I guess that rounds it up for Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. Jam, what you got for us, bud?
All right. Well, since Rome's treated us to what was for him a blind watch, I'm going to do the same. I am nominating Splash. It's a 1984 romantic comedy starring Tom Hanks and a mermaid, and it's on Disney Plus.
Ooh.
So I gotta love that premise. This came out a couple of years before The Little Mermaid, and it was made by Disney also. So yeah, looking forward to it. I've never seen this one.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think I have seen it either, but I like Tom Hanks. I think he's a good actor.
I mean, everybody likes Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
You just can't travel with him.
Oh, is he not vaccinated or something?
I think it's Tom Hanks, right? He always ends up stranded somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That's the joke. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man.
He just threw out the first pitch at the Cleveland Guardians game, and he brought Wilson the volleyball. And I thought he was going to throw the volleyball to the catcher, but no, he threw an actual baseball, which was lame. It was like, come on, just chuck the volleyball at him.
You can't disrespect Wilson.
I guess, yeah, you can't disrespect Wilson like that.
I'll throw your best friend down the plate.
Oh,
Well,
I guess not.
This kind of makes it a rounded blind watch for all of us, because when I nominated Spider-Man No Way Home, obviously I hadn't seen it yet. It wasn't out yet, but that was the movie that I nominated for the next episode. So then Pokemon, Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, and now Splash. So cool. Rounding up the blind watches for this podcast so far. All right, cool. Thanks for your time, gentlemen. That concludes this episode of MGI. You've been listening to the voices of
Shit with rounds.
Jurassic, Mark.
and Osheem, the one and only. Thank you all, those of you who have been listening, and catch us again next month. Ramadan Mubarak, by the way.
Oh, and happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Happy Passover for those who celebrate.
We got them all.
We
Catch
gotta
'em.
catch. We caught them all.
Catch them all.
Gotta
Yeah.
catch all those holidays. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Looks like MGI podcast is blasting off again.
Oh.